Okay, so hopefully this is shining, the shirt I'm wearing. Hopefully we don't get a ran out of storage thing, because it's so inconsistent too. Like sometimes I can have like 2 hour-long videos back to back and not delete the first hour-long video. So 2 hours worth of videos on my iPad and still have no problem with it. And then other times I can barely do a 30-minute video without it being like, nope, out of storage. And keep in mind, that's when I've deleted everything else I need to delete. Like I usually delete. Because, okay, so TLDR, I delete my uploads on my on like my devices. So if I accidentally delete an upload, like I delete the wrong video, or YouTube somehow gets like it deleted, whatever, because like I've copyrighted whatever, that's gone forever, gone for good. If it's gone, like not they say like, oh, it's unlisted because of this reason. No, I mean once it goes, it's gone forever. Because I don't keep my uploads. I don't think anybody else does. I'm actually gonna ask my cousin if he does that, because he's like big on YouTube too, probably more than I am. And I wonder if he does that, because he actually edits his videos too. That's what I'm big on YouTube. So Library Hall, I went today early. Now, yes, I was always planning on going Thursday until I found out that I had the wrong Friday, because I thought this Friday they'd be out for staff training. That's next Friday. And also, what was the other thing? What was it? Oh, and then now I know. Great. Now I know for a fact that it'll be 6 straight days of videos. I said great, because whenever I film, I just ate too. I just had dinner, so sometimes like, I just eaten something, there'll be something stuck in my throat for no reason. Like I chew and fall like a normal human being, so I don't know. To be fair, I didn't have a drink with it. I kind of did eat fast. I was trying to get this done. That's the number one thing I look forward to with library halls, or my check out library books. Of course, reading them, obviously, and watching the movies. And it's also showing them. Sometimes they seem to more, at least for like my comic hauls do not do good at all, and I don't know why. But comic reviews and then me showing off the books I'll be reading, that like gets a lot of views and comments and everything like that. This probably won't, and I said something, but. So the first two up are movies, and the first one up is Indiana Jones, the first one. I have never seen those movies. The next one is a movie I've seen 5,000 times, and that is, I love it every time. It's one of my favorite movies of all time, and that is Three Billboards Outside of Ebbing, Missouri. If you've been on my channel for a long time, you probably heard me talk about this movie a bunch of times. It is that good. It's honestly underrated. I feel like it came and went when it was released. It should have won all the Oscars. It should have been an Oscar sweep. I think that's a bit too unfair, but you guys get what I mean. Honestly, it only won 2 Oscars. It should have won, like, at least the acting. It should have been a clean sweep. Next one up is one that you probably will just think is an actual book. This is Dean Koontz' House of Odd. But this is actually a graphic novel adaptation, which is written by Landry Q. Walker and Dean Koontz. So it's co-authors. Don't know who's better. Like, oh, is it? Let's say I come out really enjoying this book. Do I enjoy it because it's a Dean Koontz book? I enjoy it more because Dean Koontz wrote it, or was I'm pretty sure it's Landry Q. Walker does the adaptation, but it's still written by David Q. Walker. Now this is an actual comic, but they make it look like a novel. So I wonder how many people, like my mom she's the opposite of how I am. She will never pick up like any comic, so she sees this and she's like, oh cool. She does it. No, $10.99. Why? It's because it was well, to be fair, it's actually a good price. Even books are pretty expensive nowadays. I mean, everything is, yes, but like, it's not one of those things where, oh well, if you get into this hobby, it's a lot cheaper than this one. Not that much. So next one up is a book I have been reading. I've been waiting to read ever since I heard about its movie adaptation. And what's ironic about this book is that I knew about this book for a long time, and I just now decided to finally read because the movie came out, Nimona. Now it's Netflix movie. Whatever day I decide to read Nimona, I'll watch the movie that day. Probably tonight since I've been so eager to read it and watch it. So probably then. Now, I did check out 32 items in general, just in general, and I don't know why, but usually I check out 25, so I'm gonna... It's a little confusing for you guys, but original graphic novels, I check out like maybe 4 of them, but non-original graphic novels, I check out 25 of them. And by non-original graphic novels, I mean that it came out as issues first, and then the collected edition came out. And by original graphic novels, I mean it was always all in one. So far, all these happen, and then of course there's 2 movies. This next one is a very controversial book. I saw it and I was I always wanted to check it out. I was always interested in it, but I never had. I always forgot about it, so I never had enough like. I always had too much checked out already, so I was like, let's wait on this one. And that book is Genderqueer, a very controversial book, and it's very. No one likes it. No one seemed to not like. No one seemed to like it, but like it was very controversial with that side of the argument, and yeah, for good reason. But I always want to check it out for myself. So I think you should do that with all controversial books. There are, no matter how good a reviewer can be, and a lot of them are really good. They'll tell you exactly why they don't like this book, and you can understand it, and you form your own opinion that way. Like, oh, they say this movie is really boring. It's exactly how, like, you have this image of the movie in your head, and the reviewer says, yes, that's exactly what the movie is like. Then you're gonna go off on that preconceived notion. They say it's just as bad as you thought it was, you're not gonna go see it. So you still don't want to form your own opinion that way. But I think, like, it still is somewhat important in the sense that I had no idea what I'm talking about. So I trailed off. But basically, what I'm trying to say is that like you should and shouldn't form your own opinion for things. And this one is one of those examples where no matter how much they said, they explained their reasoning behind it, I still want to check it out for myself. I think was what I was trying to say. But I got too in deep. Got in too deep. Next up is Cowboys and Aliens. This is Matthew Rosenberg. This is I had because one of the books, what was one of the books that I had checked out didn't have it? It was an OGN. Oh, it was the next one. The next one turned out it wasn't an OGN. And I also want a 4th one, because I'm going to have 4 straight days of shit going on. Tomorrow, probably not much going on. But Saturday, it's in the morning, I have blood work. And then Sunday is movies. But I always like to give myself, like, that weekend to read these. To at least read something, so I read the original graphic novels all in one sitting. I know that makes no sense. I know that probably makes no sense. I bet that probably makes very little sense to anybody, but that's the way I am. Yeah, I know what I said. I know what I said was right, but just the way I was saying it didn't seem right either. I don't know, but Cowboys and Aliens, the graphic novel adaptation, I believe, because I don't. Yeah, it says created by Scott Mitchell. Oh, it's Scott Mitchell Rosenberg. I thought Matthew Rosenberg. So if I said Matthew Rosenberg, I was wrong. But it's written by Fred Van Lente and Andrew Foley. Why does Andrew Foley sound so familiar? But yeah, anyways, Cowboys and Aliens. I probably won't watch the movie. Maybe I will. I don't know. I've heard very mixed things about it. And then we have the book that I thought was an OGN, but it's not. But I'm going to probably still treat it as one because I checked out one too many books for the non-OGNs, and that's Game of Thrones, the book I was talking about before. Now we're on to these. The first one up of these is Spider-Girl, another small-ass digest-sized copy of the book. This is volume 5. Right? Yeah. This is it right here. Volume 5. Now, I don't think they'll have the entire run, at least the first run, like the first, actually, might read this right away. The first, spit it out. The first volume run, like, you know how they do a revamp, a new number 1. Yeah, not even her first series. That's what I was thinking of. I'm sure Ben Library doesn't even have her first full series, but I still want to check it out. You know, get what they have at least. Next up is The Incredibles, Volume 2. Now, the first volume was in just absolutely terrible condition, like almost to the point where it was almost like how do they even? Why is this still being circulated? Why don't they just get rid of it and say, hey, you don't have volume one, it's in really bad condition, or they try and buy a new copy? Now I tried looking it up and I could only find volume two. It was really weird, or volume one, because I think the one I had was volume zero technically, but this is The Incredibles volume two or volume one, whatever you want to say, the next volume. I would like the first volume. Now this one is actually co-authored by. Oh, okay, so Mark Waid does the prologue. Chapters 1 through 3 is done by Mark Waid and Landry Walker. That's it. And then the epilogue is done by Marzio Takara. Neat. Yeah, it was nice. It was just a kind of a fun book, you know. It wasn't too much like it's not like it's not Kingdom Come or anything like that. It's just a nice little fun, like, little rom, kind of like a pulpy kind of comic thing. It's a perfect word to use to describe these types of comics, but I can't think of them. But kind of like just I wouldn't even say pulp, but kind of like just like a fun comic, you know, that isn't trying to, like, be too much. It knows exactly what it is, and it has fun with it. And I really liked Volume 1. Volume 2, hopefully will keep that streak going. But if I just read all that in one sitting, just because of the fact that that book is in terrible condition, and it was pretty fast paced too, honestly. So maybe I will replace it. I probably should do that. Yeah, I probably will do that. Let's do it right now. Actually, it's right now. First up, we have The Wake. No, first up. When I say first up, next up we have The Wake, a series I've read 500 times. I just read this again. Last time I read it, I think it was like in April, May. It was whenever Volume 4 of Undiscovered Country released. This is like one of my favorite Scott Snyder books, and one of my favorite Vertigo books, and one of my favorite comics in general. Now, it'd probably be credit where credit is due. If I had to do like a top 20 for this to be included. If I did top 10, it would still be an honorable mention, and like as honorable as they come, like I would say it's only because I can't justify that in the top 10. That's the only reason why. So probably like a 15. If I did top 15, it'd probably be number 15. It's just a very underrated too. And I've read it so many times, and it's one of those books that, like, because so much happens in it, because it's two parts, the two-part storyline with 5 issues each, but it's like there's 2 different settings kind of thing. Oh, it's like it takes place here and then it takes place there. I'm not gonna say when exactly, because it's technically a spoiler, but not what I'm doing is trying to be as spoiler free as possible, and so far so good. But this is just very damn good, and I lost the train of thought. I was saying, like, it was before I talked about spoilers, or I was saying not actual spoilers, but I was saying without giving too much away, yada yada yada. But I think that was it, right? And I said Undiscovered Country, and then Scott Snyder's, it's top 15, 15. And I just want to pick it up again, mainly because it was it was not similar. Well, it was a bit similar to to me at least. It was felt very similar to I almost showed you guys Game of Thrones twice, but it was very similar in plot to Undertow, at least in plot. That Steve Orlando book. Next up, we have Wonder Woman, the Becky Cloonan run. Whenever the libraries in general, and this is one of those weird ones where they have their sticker. This is my local library. They have their weird sticker over. It's not from them, but like I don't know why they do that. I want to ask them why that is. I guess it doesn't have a. Oh, it's not a barcode. I don't think. Well, this one does. It's on the back. Now, this was the only book that came in today. It was the only book I was waiting on for today. And it was kind of annoying because I could have gone yesterday. And I wouldn't have minded because it would have been perfect. Number 1, the last books came in on Tuesday, except for Wonder Woman, like late at night. So even when they first came in, I wouldn't have been able to go right away because I was way too close to them closing. That's how late it was. And I would have been fine waiting until Wednesday. But today, it was at 3 o'clock, and because I was able to go, like my mom was able to take me, thankfully, instead of waiting for tomorrow with my grandmother to take me, I just decided, let's go right now. But it's also sacrificing, spending time with my grandmother, that kind of thing. But I see her enough anyways. But it's still one of those things where I'm like, well, not often enough to where you know. But it's whatever. And nothing against my mom, obviously. I would rather, like, her and my grandmother are the two that I pick, like, right at the bat to go with. Like no hesitation. If they are able to, of course, they want to, and they don't have anything going on, I will go right towards them, to them. But yes, Wonder Woman Volume 1, the Becky Cloonan run, presumably post New 52, presumably post Future State, and also this kind of makes me angry because this technically implies that they should have, at least this library should have the Serial Landau run. He had like one volume run, and then he like left, and he came back and had his own official run. And that was the orphaned issue I'd read way back in the day, and wanted to continue that run, continue that arc. I'll look it up again. Maybe I'll do the ISBN trick. Meaning, I go by, because you can do that. I don't want to say now like that. You could never do it before. You always were able to do it, but I mean more the fact that like you literally it was ISBN. Like, it's a choice, like author, title, ISBN. I pick ISBN. I do that. So I always thought you couldn't do that, but that was because I didn't know there was a drop down arrow where you could do that. Instead of doing general keyword, you do ISBN. So they didn't know what I was talking about. So for the longest time, I was like, oh, I can't do that. I was like, wait, no, I can. Next up, this isn't what I thought it was. Next up, we have, and this is the final volume of this series, and I'm so glad my local library, Intraloans rather, had this entire series, because I didn't want to pay a single dime to read Man-Eaters, or finish Man-Eaters. So officially, they had all 4 volumes of this series. Now, this is one, like, I have gone kind of back and forth about buying myself, but honestly, I'd only consider buying it if I literally had nothing else to buy and I wanted to buy it. It's one of those things, it's like the bottom of the barrel kind of thing. And again, I'm one of the only people that actually enjoys reading this. Not, like, completely enjoys, like, thinking it's the best thing ever, God, no. Like, I understand why people hate this book, but I mean, like, some people, like, can't even finish it. I'm like, just give it to me. I'll finish it for you, and I'll give you an actual review of the comic. So, Man-Eaters Volume 4. It's like fun bad, and it's not even like terrible. It's just kind of what they go for, and kind of like the way it's kind of like the messaging behind it. Some of it's kind of like, eh. Most of it is like, it's basically, you could argue it's very similar to Barbie's messaging, but also like Barbie, you could argue is also saying this too. And there's a lot of not credit, but like a lot of proof to prove your claim, evidence to prove your claim. Next up is Spider-Gwen Volume 4. Now there is a Spider-Gwen Volume 3.5, which is a crossover with Miles Morales. You have to read that before you read this, and I'm almost done with that right now. I'm 2 issues until I have 2 issues left. So honestly, I probably should have done that tonight, because I already have a lot to read as is. Next up, we have Transmetropolitan Volume whatever, Lonely City. Oh, Volume 5, Lonely City. I always get it wrong how many volumes are in that series. I know it's 60 issues, but is it 12 volumes or 10? I believe it's maybe 10. I don't know. Point is, it's not enough, honestly. No, it is definitely enough. It has a wonderful conclusion, that like a perfect conclusion, but you still want more just because of how damn good that series is. And then again, it's one of those books I've read for like the 50th time. I really should have ordered it. I thought of ordering it by rereads and non-rereads, but who cares? Hopefully no one. Doctor Strange Volume 5, Secret Empire. We're in Dennis Hopeless's very short run on Doctor Strange until we get into Donny Cates' run, which I did not have Donny Cates' run. It was just as an ebook, which is kind of annoying for me, because I was like, oh, why don't you have that? Like, the local libraries in general, like not just mine, just all of them in general in my state, they all seem to be very weird about like having a full run of a series. They'll have like, sometimes they'll have like volumes 1 through 9 out of 10, or they'll have volumes 1 through 5 out of 10. And which one I don't like, which one I hate the most, I'd probably say, it is kind of hard to say, yeah, okay, only missing one volume, but I mean it's easier to seek it elsewhere. And then, but they have half of it, it's still kind of annoying because, well, and you gotta have a lot more to read, especially if it's 10-volume series, like I just said it was for that example. As an example, I said it as an example. Teen Titans Volume 4, Light and Dark. This is Scott Lobdell's New 52 run. I'm hoping they have and I might, but I don't remember exactly which volume they had that they said they had, but they didn't have. And I want to say that was pre-G-Milks, which is their new and improved system. There's still two systems, but the G-Milks one is like you're gonna get it. Like there's no question about it. And ILL is like, yeah, you might, but I don't know. Self-Made Volume 1, a series I really enjoyed and wanted to read again. Very thick too. It's one of those 6-issue, 192 pages that reminds me of Monstrous, because that's the same amount of issues and pages as Monstrous is. But it doesn't make any sense because I don't think even issue 1 was nearly as long as issue 1's Monstrous is. Maybe it is, maybe it is. No, according to Image Studies, it's 66 pages for issue 1 of Monstrous. It's like a huge, triple-sized issue. It was awesome. It's awesome. Which must have been awesome for people that wanted more for their money, because I believe it was still the same price too. They did something similar with Dark Ride issue 1. That was 50 pages, same price too. Let's put them here. I don't know why I'm doing that, but I guess I am. Unknown Volume 2 by Mark Waid. It was just a 2-volume series, so I'd like the hell with it, you know. Even though I wasn't the biggest fan of Volume 1, I still want to check out Volume 2. And I didn't absolutely hate it, so I still, you know, it just made the mark of being just enjoyable enough to want to see what happens next. But anything could happen in that series, I wouldn't be insulted. I don't even remember, honestly, a lot of what happened in Volume 1. It's very all over the place. Wicked and the Divine, Volume 3, a series I've read 4,000 times, and there's a good reason for it. It's a damn good series. Flash, Volume 4, another good run of one of the best runs of Flash. But I haven't read a whole lot of Flash. I shouldn't say that. But it's also I feel it's a bit criminally underrated, because people see New 52 and they're like, oh. Namesake, Steve Orlando. I want to read this again because I got Undertow, and this is also another sci-fi comic written by Steve Orlando. I didn't like it a whole lot the first time I read it. Hopefully that changes this time. Punisher Volume 2, The War Machine. Cannot wait to finally finish this run. The first volume was amazing. I really liked the first volume. Ms. Marvel, Beyond the Limit. Reading this for the first time, and as of this one, excluding her appearances like Champions and other team-up books like that, I did read Ms. Marvel Team Up. However, this is the only Ms. Marvel book I need, and not including her Dark Web 2-issue crossover thing. So not including those two, not taking those two into criteria. This is the last of what I need to read for Ms. Marvel. Unwritten Volume 6. Now, hopefully they have the rest of this series, because I love this series so much. It looks like that's a lot, though. It's pretty thick. Maybe it's just because the previous volume was so thin. America Chavez, Made in the USA. I have read this before, and even I like this book. And I hated America's character. Honestly, it took away everything you didn't like about the Gabby Riviera run, and completely changed it. And I mean everything. Like, without giving too much away, everything. Genius Volume 1. Now, the kind of part of the reason one of the only reasons why I got this was because of the fact that Volume 2 is called Cartel, and I just got in 3 Image comic series that dealt with drug cartels. I'm kind of on a drug cartel comic kick, and I didn't think it was just super good, all that great, but I lost my train of thought. Yeah, it's gone. But this is one of the only collected editions that collects the pilot season issue. Now, what kind of pisses me off about that is either way, that issue is free, like actually free online, which I think it should be. Like, Image Comics is kind of scummy for not putting them in there in the collected editions. So they should have said, "Hey, the collected edition's out. Do you want a preview of this series? Here you go." They do that. They do that automatically with most series that not just like that are ongoing. Just in general, they have like most of that. I would say 5 out of 10 times you'll get a issue 1 will be free, and that's one of the reasons why I support Image Comics so much, is because they do that for their customers, and it's one of those things that you would think like, oh my god, you're giving that many comics out for free. That's how do you sleep? How do you not go into business? Oh my god, like that's what Marvel themselves is saying, and especially DC Comics. But yeah, so Genius Volume 1. Hope I liked it a lot better than I did the first time. Final volume, Wayward, and it's my favorite series of all time. So much so, I'm almost thinking of purchasing it myself, and for keeping it. Like even though all 6 volumes I have a little library intro loans, I'm thinking of buying it myself. When it will not be something I do like right away or anything like that. It'll be a long time coming. There's a bunch of series that I need, and I just added like a whole bunch because they had a sale on books, and I don't like getting a bunch of for digital at least. I don't want to get them digitally, so I'll get them physically. We don't have to get physically. We don't have to get digitally because physically it's out of print. God is Dead, Volume 1, and this is Jonathan Hickman and Mike Costa. So like with that Incredibles book, and like with that Dean Koontz book, I don't know if I really enjoy this. Is it because I enjoy it was it due to Jonathan Hickman or Mike Costa? Like, who is doing the most of the writing? It's one of those things where you can't tell who's doing what, so to speak. It was very awkwardly said, I know. But let's just move on then. Volume 5 of Letter 44. Now, this and the next volume, we just collect random issues. It's like 17, 18, and then 40 and 45, and the next one is like 46 and 50, and then 54 up to 58. It's really weird. I don't know why they did that. Hopefully it's because they want to spread it out more. They wanted to like split it up more. Like, this is the conclusion to this guy's story, and then volume 6 is the conclusion to that guy's story. So even though it's not in publication order, it's in chronological order as the event took place, which might sound very confusing to you guys. Like, why wouldn't they just do that, how I normally do it? Well, that's because a lot happens in Letter 44. A lot of subplots in that series. But yes, Letter 44, Volume 5. I do that, but yes, blank, blah, 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 just in case I didn't show what it was. I'm pretty sure I would remember to do that, but I wouldn't be talking that much about it and not show it. But sometimes I do get carried away, like and then sometimes maybe I forgot to show it. I did do that once before, actually. Not I remember. But Preacher, Book 3, my favorite comic of all time. Reading it for the 10 millionth time, and so far it's still my favorite comic of all time. Again. Reading my 10 millionth time again. Just the way I said it sounded weird. Without saying again. Autumn Lands Volume 1. This was the other Image Comics series I said was a lot like Game of Thrones, and in tradition of Game of Thrones. And I was like, well, the library has it. I almost bought it myself. I don't know why I did, because I didn't really like the series that much the first time I read it. It's the Kurt Busiek curse. The only book by Kurt Busiek I actually liked was Marvels, and that's obvious. Like, obviously you'll like that. Like, everyone likes that. But everything else I've read by him, I haven't liked. I didn't like the Adventures Forever first issue of that series. I didn't like this. I didn't like Astro City all that much. Astro City was as close to Marvels as all of them have been, especially my second time reading it. But even then, I was like, I had no real inclination to put in Volume 2. And I think what happened when I said I'll do it next time, but I want to take a little break from that series, and I forgot. But yeah. Autumn Lands Volume 1. 2-volume series, though, at least. And then Gotham Academy. Another book that so far I haven't really liked. Hopefully here we'll actually get into oh no. It's not gonna be, because there's no Becky Cloonan. So it was a good thing that I didn't decide to, because I felt like I figured that Becky Cloonan did this series along with Brendan Fletcher, so I was gonna sacrifice that Wonder Woman book and just go on Wednesday for like 2 seconds. For like 2 seconds, I said this was the dumbest idea ever. But yep, it's Brendan Fletcher, so I probably, if anything, I'll hate this run. I'll hate this one the most, because the thing that I was like, and this isn't like, I don't know for sure, but based off the, like, if I'm doing the math and based off of what I've gotten from him before and been prejudiced, yes, but based off all of that, it does seem like it's Brendan Fletcher as the culprit behind why I don't like Gotham Academy. Because I have not liked anything else the guy's written. Hated his Batgirl run, which was coming out at the same time as Gotham Academy was, so even more of a reason for why I believe it's Brendan Fletcher's fault and not Becky Cloonan's. Because Becky Cloonan, I liked everything else she's written. She had a pretty good Punisher run, which I've read one orphaned issue of, so I don't know if the whole run is good. It might not be. Maybe it's just that one issue she actually did good with, but and all the others sucked. But I almost wouldn't say that. But then yeah, we got that. So he had the Batgirl run, which I really hated. He had a Motor Crush, which I absolutely despised. He had Easy Line, which I thought was just even Easy Line. I thought was just okay. And it's the closest we got into being to a good Brendan Fletcher book, besides maybe Gotham Academy. Even Gotham Academy, like, I'm just reading to finish it, you know? It's like homework. With that, as they say, is that. After today's video, I'll be filming, recording, more likely than not, my next week's Omnibus Friday video. But after that, it's just gonna be your weekly videos and maybe a comic haul later on this month, like lately this month. I'm not 100% sure. I'm hopefully, but time will tell. But that, as I say, is that. See you guys in the next one, which actually is the last video I'm recording until next week's video, this Friday video. So see you guys then, I guess.